Hello everyone. Very good evening to each one of you. My name is Ankita Yadav, and we have with us Asma Hamid, who we both will be your hosts for this evening. First of all, I would like to start by wishing you all a very happy World Architecture Day. And thank you all for joining for this webinar on strategies to win grants. We are very thrilled to have you all with us as we dive into this art of successfully crafting a winning proposal for your impactful project. Today's sessions is packed with valuable insights on how to craft a compelling winning proposal and how to effectively plan and manage your budget. Also, there will be some key strategies to ensure that your project stands out. We'll be hearing from three speakers who are the past grant recipients. First up, we will have Kankana Narayan Dev. Next, Tejashree Lakras. And lastly, we will have Anjali Jia. All three of them will take us through the process which led them to win the grant. I would also like to add a little about Ethos Foundation. Ethos Foundation has a long standing history of supporting grants and fellowships, including Saint-Gobain Grants since 2011, earlier known as Saint-Gobain Scholarship. This grant has been backing the incredible projects which are focused around inclusivity, sustainability, affordability, and cultural preservation. These projects have been making a significant and lasting impact on various communities. After the presentation of all three of our speakers, our team will introduce you to some exciting grants and fellowship opportunities which are focused around sustainability. So please stay tuned. And now I would like to request all of your full attention for the next hour as we delve into this insightful session. So without further ado, let's move on to the main event. First up, we have Kankana Narayan Dev, the winner of 2011 Saint-Gobain Scholarship, who will today share with us her experience with crafting the grant proposal with her innovative project, Daring Eco Works. With her project, she has been empowering various rural community by producing bamboo furniture and building components. Her project has been helping in bridging the gap between traditional craftsmanship and modern market demand. So let's welcome Kankana to hear her story.
Thank you, Ankita. And thank you to the entire team of Ethos. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you to the entire team of Ethos. Actually, it's very nostalgic today that, like I got the opportunity to recall the time that when I was applying for this grant, and also it was the first batch or series of the Ethos grant, if I'm correct. So I would just share my screen. Prior to the application of this grant, I was involved just after my graduation in bamboo-based training for rural unemployed youths across Northeast, along with an NGO which was based in Orissa. So after the completion of that assignment, where we moved almost all the 7 states of Northeast, I realized that there has to be a platform where the skills that we had imparted that could be nurtured. So that's how Darang Eco Works was proposed. and it was established as a social enterprise in 2012. We are mostly designing and engineering consultancy based organization where we also do skill development training and bamboo-based craftsmen and consultancy. We also have like opportunities for rural tourism. And while working in the bamboo and rural organizations, I also happen to, come across humanitarian housing aid, which later on, shifted my interest from bamboo to, humanitarian architecture, which currently I am pursuing. With a focus and some sort of research and innovations, which is continuously development of better joineries or better material, better ways of treating bamboos. So that is what we are constantly working with. So I'll just share one of the grant proposals following the Saint-Gobain grants, which was development of a transitional shelter. And following to this, I'll share the, the development of how I then started applying for different grants. So those projects only I'll be sharing. And what are the highlights of this kind of projects? That's what will be the focus of my presentation. So here I am sharing the project story or the story of the transitional shelter kit project, which was a grant, which received a grant from the Assam Science, Technology and Environment Council. It was a one-year project, so it was highly time-bound. And the main thing was, like while writing this proposal, which did not have any structure, in the sense there was no mention of timeline, whether they need a problem statement or solution. They just wanted an idea, and then we had to detail the idea with uh, like lot of commitments, in the sense like what will be the targeted milestones in 2 months, 3 months, and every grant organizations have their own way of asking those details. So here I would like to share about the design problem that I realized while working in the humanitarian aid sector. It was a need of appropriate housing, and this was the again the context of this project was humanitarian aid, where shelter relief is one of the major component of the uh, uh, relief material that is provided. And this is where like this the transition shelter kits comes. I'll not go in details about the project, but just to give an idea as to how you should, like how we should establish a problem. Like we should give the context of the problem, the situation, and then the solution will be judged on how well you define the problem. So that is what I'm trying to share here. And these were the kind of houses, where people were staying who needed, shelter. So they were not like, staying in some fancy house. This was the typical type of construction that those people who needed shelter were staying. And after the disaster, these are the kind of, shelter or community shelter that uh, was provided by the government, which lacked, privacy or comfort, and different aspects were identified in terms of security, privacy, and those things. And these were the ad hoc solutions that people often do at the sites. So what and the solutions that were proposed by the government were, sometimes they were not appropriate to the climate or the context, because just after the floods in Assam, it is very hot and humid. So a tarpaulin shelter is not the correct solution. And often the CGI sheets which are imported are expensive, and they're also delivered externally. And most of the time, school buildings are used as shelters, like we saw in the previous image, and that affects the regular activities of the schools. And these are the situations which needs this shelter. So what we did after I received the grant, I worked with the displaced community and try to develop a shelter kit which they are comfortable, which is economic, which is the government also supports. So we spend time studying about the problem, doing the understanding the context, then held several community meetings, and then we made a prototype. And first prototype was not acceptable, and then we again iterated on it. So again, some properties of bamboo as to establish why it was appropriate to be used in the shelter kit. And these are the different components of the kit. So the kits has different components which can be self-assembled by a displaced community. So this is a solution that was proposed as part of this problem. And one of the thing in this kind of projects is how do we escalate the use of this technology. So that's how we have to collaborate with NGOs or develop business model canvas, or several collaborations can be worked out to disseminate this technology to different parts. This is a very concise shelter kit which can be transported by just 2 people, and it can be locally manufactured. So this was the project that received the ESTEC grant. And this is another project by TOCIC, which was developing bamboo fiber-based ferrocement panels, which can be assembled with least, masonry skills or least skill labor, especially in the villages of Assam, where there is rapid urbanization going and people are shifting to non-engineered houses. So basically, we have come to a time in our lives where humanity has the capacity to make great changes in this world and also great calamities. And that's why I feel that we have to be very conscious about what kind of project, because there's so much to do in the humanitarian aid for say. And now I will like to just share the timeline which I was asked, like as to what happened after the Ethos Transparent Grant. And I was a young graduate. I graduated in 2011, so also applied for this grant, and the grant was granted in 2012. And then following by which in 2014, I received the grant for the design development of the bamboo transition shelter kit. And due to several personal reasons, like I had to extend that 1 year time years because I was relocating and stuff like that. And in 2017 is where I received this TOCIC grant to develop a housing typology using bamboo fiber. And 2018, I received the NRL Red Hat grant for mass manufacturing of the bamboo shelter kit, which was earlier designed as part of the grant received by ESTEC. But I would like to share that I'm not very good in, the business model canvas and the thing. So I could not crack the larger, part of this grant, for which there were different rounds. So I qualified till the finals, but so it was from the organization that time when I was pursuing my doctoral studies at IIT Guwahati. So from IIT, I was selected, in which I received a 25,000 grant, but sadly, I could not qualify for the main final round. So what I want to basically share through this is that probably these are just showcases of what I got, but there had been continuous participation in different platforms, different and I think every milestone that I have received, if I would say every grant, was maybe 100 failures and one success. So I consider myself to be like a, what do you call, a failure case study. So I have a lot of stories to share about how I failed in something, and these are just few successes among those failures. And I think those failures have brought me, like when I was documenting this or making this table, I realized that okay, this is not bad, like I have failed a lot, but okay, so this is uh, fine. And how do we come up with the problem statement is through continuous, progressive work on a particular sector. So if you see in my kind of work, it is sustainable materials, working with humanitarian aid. There is a kind of domain that I have focused to, and I had been continuously working with it so that I, find out okay, there is an opportunity here. So I'll share like what I'm currently working on also, and yeah, I think that's what. And maybe in the question answer session, because it's too one to one, and sometimes I get scared whether if my network is still connected or I'm just speaking. Anyways, so currently I am in the phase 2 of the bamboo fiber ferrocement panel, uh, concrete panel housing project. Uh, what I when I shifted from architecture to design as a discipline, I realized that as architects, maybe uh, we didn't follow the design process like how they follow it in the discipline of design. So I feel that if we can include the 5 stage design process, we can achieve so much in architecture also, like because ultimately a building is also a product. Like if we can think it like a product, and rather than sympathizing with our users, if we can empathize, work with them. And as I said, like how well we define our like we have these area statements and stuff like that in architecture, but if we are able to define what is the requirement and detail it, so whatever problems we define ourselves, it will be like the story that we stitch is what is the success of design. Like if you are establishing that yes, this is the problem, I am going to address these problems. First, establishing that problem is very important. And you can start at any stage, like pick up any stage in the design process, and you can probably work on the development of it. Uh, Currently, what I follow when I'm like usually most of the grant proposal have a format. They will give you the idea statement or problem statement, and it's always better to give a probable solution with different aspects, be it social, technical, financial, structural, or structural approach. And you have to establish that it is viable, that whatever targets that you are setting will be able to be completed within that time frame, be it 1 year or 2 year, that can. And what is the benefit or impact, like what is the social benefit or the technical or financial or sustainable, so currently at this point we can't exclude sustainability, so that has to be obviously be part of the proposal or whatever idea that you're working with. And we are at that stage currently that nothing is unique, or you are not you know inventor, like we are all innovators. So it's so important that we refer to the works that has already been done and how you can add to those solutions. So that's why very good literature review, we call it, or a case study, or what kind of works have already been done on that topic, that needs to be referred very particularly. And just to share about my team, so we through all this while we had been able to establish a community. So we have on and off, different volunteers whenever we have programs. However, we have a core team of craftsmen and a workshop in charge where we continuously work, where they continuously work at our workshop. And we are, as I said, we are continuously innovating and trying to find solutions. So presently, we are working on this prefab footing for bamboo houses in the flood-prone areas, which are mobile footings, so they can be transported and relocated. And in our prototype house of bamboo fibers, we have a DRR model in which we involve children because they are the future of our society. So if we can influence them to make changes in their choices, we will be able to achieve better results. So that is and all these projects are under Drawing Eco Work. So we have diversified from just building materials and furnitures to different aspects of being a socially responsive organization. And we annually conduct the skill enhancement workshop, and the next one is scheduled in January 2025. Currently, we are working with collapsible houses for the Char areas of Barpeta in Assam. Commercial bamboo plantations in the flood-prone areas is another thing. And during COVID, or like sometime before that, it was difficult for me to run a workshop in the city. And that's when we relocated to our ancestral village, where we started a permaculture farm, me with my brother. And currently my workshop is also based from there. And so I would like to end with the quote is that if the path is beautiful, let us not ask where it leads, because seriously, if you ask me what are my future plans, I don't know where it leads to. So I look forward to, getting in touch with one-on-one with those of you who are planning to apply. If any way I can help you all. Yeah, thank you. So I had kept it very brief and short, I think.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Kankan. I think you
Yeah.
took us from a journey of social enterprise and how the grant that you received, and like you correctly pointed out, it was one of the first grants that we had opened, and we had the opportunity with Saint-Gobain to release. So it kind of does feel like a complete circle for us to have you come here and talk about the grant to the more aspiring recent both students of architecture, professionals, faculty members, all together. Although we do not have time for Q&A right now, but Geeta will also be joining us soon. Geeta is right now in the US, and yesterday she ran a full marathon. And today it's I think it's around 6 o'clock in the morning her time in the US. So she'll be joining us soon. But it does really mean a lot to us that you gave in your time and your expertise. And like you've shared your contact details, I'm sure that the students will, and the faculty members and the architects will connect with you with any doubts and queries. Asma, I'll hand it over to you to take it for the rest of the segment.
Yeah, thank you, Kankana, for sharing us insights on making the right proposal. So I now call upon Tejashree Lakras, one of the winners of the Saint-Gobain Grants Program 2018. So her project, to give a brief about her project, it's like on the research and the documentation of the rich cultural heritage of Old Kalyan in Maharashtra district. So she raised local awareness and also promoted the sensitive conservation of Old Kalyan's unique cultural and architectural history. So her research also evolved into an exhibition and a documentary and even gained visibility in local newspapers on her efforts in preserving the heritage of Old Kalyan. So I now pass on to Tejashree Lakras. You can talk.
Yeah, thank you, Asma.
Yeah.
I'll start sharing the screen. I hope it is visible and I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Saint-Gobain and Ethos team for this opportunity to share my experiences. Hello, everyone. I'm here to share my journey from the Saint-Gobain scholarship, which I won in 2018. And the project was titled as Kalyan Smriti Gandha and rightly mentioned by Asma. It documented the architectural heritage and history of Old Kalyan in the form of two outcomes. One was the interactive exhibition and another was a short film, a documentary. So let me give you a very brief summary of how the idea originated, how it shaped the whole project outline. Before applying for this Saint-Gobain platform for the scholarship, I was already associated with few local, national, and state organizations to create awareness about the lost and losing heritage of this place, that is the Old Kalyan in Mumbai. And we were doing heritage awareness activities like heritage walks. We were doing interactions with the locals and the people who were interested to come and join from the other parts of Mumbai. We were also working with different age groups, including with the competitions like drawing competitions, photography competitions, few cultural programs, including dance, singing. And we were getting responses in the initial years, but soon, right after 2 years, we realized that the demolition of heritage structures is still continuing. We did not find much change happening to that process, which was really sad. And we were also facing the problem of lack of funds. And thirdly, that we had come to the point of saturation where we had to come up with more creative ways of engagement of more people, more younger generation, and creating more affection between the people and their heritage structures. So, in order to address this problem particularly, and like um, um, Kalpana Narayan Dev also mentioned very nicely in her presentation that the problem identification and its establishment in these kind of scholarship proposals are very important. So, in order to address these problems, we thought of we started applying for different scholarship platforms, research grants, and we were also looking during this process, we were also looking at those platforms which will encourage particularly the architectural research. So Saint-Gobain was definitely was one of them. And this background established the need, the rationale, the justification of the project and why we are applying for the grant. So accordingly, the structure of the entire proposal was designed in which the first parameter was need, where we stated very clearly, we described in detail that why this opportunity is required, why more engagement is the need of an hour, and how this scholarship, how this particular grant will facilitate more awareness activities and will stop the process of demolition of heritage structures eventually. In our structure of research proposal, one more important parameter was how the project is significance not only for the old Kalyan heritage structures, but how it will help in sustainability of other structures which are on the outskirts of Kalyan. So this was a very futuristic aim that we had included in the project, and that actually gave weight, in my opinion, that actually gave weight to the proposal. We included in the outcome section that how creatively we are going to produce the two outcomes. One is the interactive exhibition, which is a very least explored phenomenon in heritage discourse. So we said in the proposal that this is how innovatively we are going forward to our approach. And another was the short film, the documentary, because throughout our process, of discussing with the locals their opinions on how to use the grants if at all we win any, and the discussions with our mentors, with our site teams, and also the past winners. I should mention that I had discussed with Sonam, because we did not have opportunity like you people have to attend the these kind of webinars where the past winners are speaking and sharing their experiences. So all these opinions and all these suggestions, discussions helped in contributing to the creative parameter of this project, which were the two, the interactive exhibition and the short film. We also speculated that we are going to,
We have
sorry,
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes.
Mhm.
Hello.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, yes. We also speculated that we are going to require volunteering students team. So we had collaborated with Pillai Institute, and we also figured out what are the local social programs schedule, how we can pitch in. And accordingly, we designed the timeline and budget, in which we clearly said that we are approaching the different public platforms where we have already gathered the permissions. We have booked those platforms. If at all we get the grants, we will be requiring these platforms to exhibit our stuff and screen the documentary. So documentation of the different heritage structures and the film shooting of these structures also required the permissions of the owners. So these were the homeworks which we had already done before going to the project application. And this again gave weightage during our Saint-Gobain interview, that we were very clear about how we are going to spend time and how we are going to spend money simultaneously on site and off the site. A major amount of money was also dedicated to the outreach program, because we were working towards the locals involvement and engagement for the heritage awareness. During the execution and further impacts, we came across very interesting experiences from the locals that I must share, of course, because of the lack of time, very briefly. So we started with the trailer launch on different YouTube, social platforms, social media platforms with the YouTube. During the first 3 months of commencement of this project, we were not ready with the documentation sheets and the film yet. When we started with the exhibition, we first approached the Ganesh Utsav, which is the biggest festival in Kalyan. So there we were ready with the exhibitions, and like I said, it was an interactive sheet exhibition. So people actually contributed to our knowledge by sharing the small notes, by sharing their own past stories with the heritage structures, which we incorporated in the form of bookmarks and these kind of figurative bookmarks, which acted as token of memory to the viewers who came to exhibitions. And these were the glimpses of what were the outcomes of exhibitions. In total, there were 25 sheets, 25 heritage structures were documented. This not only gave inspiration to the heritage structure owners, those particularly which we documented, we were also able to stop the demolition of other structures through this project. So Saint-Gobain scholarship was helpful not only during the present of this project, but also the future. We went on screening the films not only at the social platforms, but also in the architectural institutes, the research institutes, the historical research institute, which is established in Kalyan, and in few conferences as well, where we started getting more responses from the scholarly communities, and we also evolved the short film and exhibitions accordingly. Our team was felicitated timely. We got the encouragement to move ahead, and like Asma mentioned in the introduction, we were featured in a few local newspapers, and that helped us continue with our passion. So in total, after the project execution, how it impacted my the career journey ahead was that we as a team started getting more conservation works in not only in Kalyan but in outskirts. So the major aim of protecting the heritage structures through this proposal was achieved. More research work started happening, and the most important seed of my PhD research topic was sown during this journey. So I'm really thankful to the Saint-Gobain and Ethos team for helping me continue this journey, helping my team continue with this wonderful journey till date. And to the audience, I would like to wish you all the very best for the applications. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tejashree, for giving us a glimpse into your journey and to actually share with us the process that has gone behind your project. Thank you. Now I call upon Anjali GR, one of the winners of the Udita Grants 2023. So as you know, Udita is one of the focus areas of Arcause, which means universal design is the answer. So her project is a wayfinding app. So it's basically like an indoor navigation app which gives information about all the accessibility features, which helps people with disabilities. I now call upon Anjali to present her work.
Thank you, Asma. I hope I'm audible. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Anjali and I'm an architecture graduate and I'm currently working as a research assistant at Barrier Free Consultancy Cell, which is a small cell team working on accessibility and implementing accessibility in the state of Kerala. So I'll just move on to my presentation now. I hope my screen is visible. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I'm just going to start off with I'm actually inspired by Kankana ma'am and Tejashree ma'am's work because I'm only a new entrant to this field of grants in research proposals, independent research in general. So this has been inspiring for me as well. So I'll just give my take on how to write a grant proposal and how I went about it rather than giving you a whole guide on how to do it yourself. So regarding the writing grants part, this competition that Udita Grants for Barrier Free Design actually came with a really good brief, and that is probably my starting point for the study. And also, thankfully, I have been working in the field of accessibility for over the past 2.5 years, so that also helped a bit. So, starting off with the brief is basically your Bible. So, I'm also going to add snippets of my brief and explain how I went about the process. So this is part of every, as Kankana ma'am had said earlier, there was probably no structure that happened that was there earlier, but currently the competitions all have like very detailed briefs on what to do, what not to do, and everything is very like thematically and submission requirements wise, everything is pretty detailed. So all you have to do is read through the well written brief. So brainstorm as you go, read it, highlight it, put in notes, sticky notes, whatever it is that gives you the ideas, jot down your ideas, anything is possible. So this is also, again, with the brief was a pretty good starting point for me because it clearly detailed out what needs to be done. So basically, starting with the understanding the client part and identifying a problem, then doing the literature study and existing solutions that were proposed and how to innovate, as ma'am had said earlier. So coming on to uh, again, a well-written brief does half the work for you. So you can just structure your brief based on how your proposal based on how the brief is written. So when you move on to the submission requirements, this is just it just gives you the basic details, including how to go about presenting your proposal, because these are little things that matter. Maybe it's the slide limit, maybe it's the presentation time limit. These are little things that you can take care of, and it can also give you to the structure, lead you to the structure of the presentation. It includes probably the project description and what else needs to be included, and also give you a structure as to how the proposal will be, will play out in the future when you do get the grant. So it also gives you a better idea to move about, and it also gives you the little things. For example, the naming of the files, and it might seem little, but it actually does make a difference to the person who is probably reviewing the proposal. Also, it's nice to stick with rules sometimes, I guess. So yeah, when it comes to design thinking as a process, as ma'am had discussed earlier, we have this is the typical format that you follow when it comes to design thinking, and I hope a lot of you are from the architecture or design background attending over here. So one among the main portions of the proposal format or the proposal part would be empathizing, defining, and ideating the problem. Because it will be the idea that you present. The prototyping, testing, and implementing part would probably come after when you do execute the project. So moving on to the understanding and exploring part, this is somewhere that we will be landing when you're making the proposal, and the materializing part, and well, the exploration and the materializing part, the rest of it will be carried out during the execution of the study. So moving on to how I went through my proposal. So as I said, I've been working in the field of accessibility, and so I'm quite a bit familiar with the issues that have been around in our area, at least. So that is something that I focused on while defining the problem statement that I have. When moving on to like the defining the problem statement, that is your leverage on the whole proposal. Like how you communicate the problem statement to the funding agency is where it all lies, I believe. The solution you can just, you will reiterate it as you go. But the need for the solution is probably something that you have to communicate with the funding agency to get them to be interested in the project. So give some context to background information. For example, in my case, it was also about like wayfinding being an underrated or often overlooked aspect when it came to accessibility, because there were cases where accessibility was implemented, but people didn't know that these accessible features were there in the building, especially when it came to like the public buildings in my state. So that is some insight that I got from my work. You can also, take up all the literature around you, the issues that you see on news every day. You can just read through things, and some things stick with you. And when you read through the brief, that's why I said you need to jot down things so that you can just go back to them. There might be some things that stick with you that you can, focus on and expand your study on it. And it's always good to, back your study with some numbers or some insights, some informed insights from earlier papers, or it's a necessity. It's an issue that has been like identified by other people as well. Even these newspaper cuttings or other secondary sources may add to your proof that this problem is a valid problem. So when it comes to the problem statement, you have to define the specific problem that you plan to address. It's also important that you limit the study to a bit, because you can go as far and wide as you can, but you can only do so much with the resources that you have, maybe the grant or the time that you have. So there needs to be a fine line between finding the setting the limits for the study, I would say. And when it comes to the design statement, you need to share the solution that you plan to provide. For example, in my case, it was a low-cost indoor navigation system that would also provide the persons with disabilities as well as the first-time users of a building with the information regarding the accessible facilities within the building. And you can also add pointers as to how the solution, that is the problem statement, is being addressed in your design statement. So that can also be a part of your, and that needs to be a part of your proposal. And moving
Anjali,
on. Yeah.
5 more minutes.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. So yeah, moving on, we have the project description. So I'm going with the structure that I had to follow during the submission for the Ethos grants, the one brief that I had showed you earlier regarding the submission requirements. So I'm going by that order. So a synopsis is always a good idea to structure your research in general. So I hope the architecture students or the design people who have engaged in dissertation and thesis and other research projects already know what synopsis entails. So basically it includes a goal that you're trying to work towards. So in my case it is an indoor navigation system. And moving on, we have the objectives, and in seeking these objectives we have divided these into multiple tasks. For example, in my case it included identifying the needs of persons with disabilities during navigation and wayfinding, and analysis of existing technologies for wayfinding, and the development of the product prototype. So this included subtasks, which were the literature review part, the meetings with the experts, interviews with the persons with disabilities, and finalization of the low-cost technology. And moving on, we have the budgeting part. Budgeting is probably something that we don't go across when it comes to academic research, and that might be a little tricky for those of your students. So ideally, it varies depending on your projects. In my case, I needed some technical support from other people because it is an app and it is kind of technical for an architecture student like me who has probably no technical background in coding or anything at all. So I needed that resource personnel and experts and users. These are persons with disabilities, and everybody's time is worth the value. So I have included that remuneration part of it. And then we have the technical equipment part of it because it is a technical exploration. I had some expenses regarding that, and the travel and meetings part for the meeting with the experts. And these were the little expenses that I had, and always leave room for miscellaneous stuff. There are contingencies that might arise during the execution of the project. So leave room for that in all your projects. Just leave maybe 5,000, 10,000 rupees in the miscellaneous head so that you can, take it up for other unapprehended expenses that might arise during the project. Yeah. And moving on to the project timeline, this is also another important thing. It's not just the funds that are limited, it's also the time. And this one has been a tricky part because you have to divide the tasks that you have, the ones that I discussed earlier, and you need to get it done within the described timeline. And this was my initial timeline that I had proposed, but variables are inevitable. There were times where I had to expand my time schedules by quite a lot because there was also this technical support that was required, and I didn't have it in the first place. So finding the right people to get it done was also a task that required a lot more time. And also when it comes to again a technical prototype thing, little issues might arise and you need time to sort things out. These are probably not what I had expected, but yeah, these kind of things also arise during the project, and it's something that you have to keep in mind. I think stretching it out to the end of the timeline might not be the best solution, at least in my case. I'd like the others to comment as well, but yeah, just keep it manageable for you. And also, if you have time to get the technical team set in place, if you are working on a project, or if you have a team in place in first, I think that would be the best to go about. And we finally have the expected outcome, and this would be the one change that your research or product could bring about. And this is also something that has served as a sort of inspiration for me as I moved about my research. So a bit of optimism does go a long way. So I had this huge idea, or at least an inspiration to make their lives a bit better than it already is. But yeah, so I'd say keep the statement as sort of a motive so that you can also move on looking up to that and get your goal, succeed in your goal. So yeah, I think that's about my project and how I went about the grant, and I hope all of you also get to present your ideas, however wild they might be, and get a chance to go ahead with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali. Thanks for giving us a detailed overview on the process behind applying for the grant. Thank you so much. So I now invite architect Geeta Balakrishnan to go through the exciting opportunities available under the Arcause and also share more inspiring success stories from the past participants.
Thank you, Asma. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I am on a different time zone. I'm sorry, and just woken up here. It's good evening to all of you. Now, I'd like to begin by thanking Kankana, Tejasri, and Anjali for the great presentation. I think I was listening in, and I think it gives a very deep overview, insight, actually, more than an overview into the concerns that one should have when applying for something like this, how to be prepared, how to make your uh, uh, your project proposal a winning one. There are a lot of things that were nuggets of wisdom that were hidden in there, and I'm grateful to them for having spoken from their viewpoint. I think I should go back to, there were comments on the detailed nature of the brief today. When this whole thing started, actually, is when I had conceptualized the Bridge Scholarship Program, which incidentally was just financial help for students with difficulties, and that's something I wanted to execute under Ethos. And Saint-Gobain came forward and said that they'd like to do this grants on innovative ideas, and helping individuals to probably at least take their first pilot project forward. And we were both, Saint-Gobain and Ethos at that time, this was amongst the first ever something like this to happen. And we were still unsure about what to expect, what kind of ideas, and how the enthusiasm, how many would really come forward. And that was when that is why we kind of left the brief so open-ended in the beginning. We said anything that comes, we would try and evaluate and see, and then slowly over a period of time, brought in the format of the brief, the structure for, and then we realized as we went on that those applying for it also needed some guidance, because there are ideas, but how do you take those ideas to building a proposal and then actually to fruition? And that's why the brief turns out to be the way it is today. And that is why we are having sessions like this today, where we can guide potential ideas. And the objective is for these ideas to be, one is to be sure that they're helping a cause, a problem that you're trying to solve. The three ideas you saw today, one from Sonam, just feel free to keep changing screens because I'm just talking. So when you go to the next one, I'll go ahead and talk on that as well. So for instance, we had three ideas shared today, but they don't necessarily give a view of the complete gamut of things that could be potential ideas for this scholarship, this grant program, or the couple of other grant programs that we have in store but aren't able to announce yet today because we are building the briefs for it. It should be out fairly soon. And for the different grants programs, we looking for you to address specific social, environmental, cultural challenges. So go out there, explore what problems are there, say on the construction site, in your communities, environmental problem that you see that needs handling. I understand there was a question posed to Konkana also about the extent of funds. Very often, the idea may need more funds. And let me assure you, or let me ask you to believe that those funds will come by too later. But it's good to take that first step and see what is the intervention or problem that you could begin with. So what is the design intervention that is required is what you will define. And then with this 1 lakh that is being offered to you, once you get the grant, what is that prototype, or what is that first step that you can take? What is that research that you can do is also something that will be supported when you have the bigger plan in place, that you say, after this, this is what I intend to do with it. Sandra Moses, I think she's also in Assam, coincidentally, came up with a wooden windmill. And the challenge was, I remember, that this is not going to be very high, and because it's built in this manner. So how do you then harness the wind? So she had to, I think, look at a higher elevation to be able to position this windmill. And that was an interesting thing also, to find land and find somebody who will be willing to give that space, and then how do you then harness that energy. We also follow up, as you can see, we are still in touch with Kankana from the first edition to see how her Darang Eco Works is doing, or Tejashree worked beautifully with her group of students and came up with this study, and how she's taking it forward with other students. So I'm just hold. I'd like to say a few things about these projects also. And of course, our youngest entrant is Anjali, and I think she's youngest not just in the fact that she applied last year, but also that I think in age also she would be among the youngest. And I like the maturity with which she presented her, her understanding of how to deal with the project, while she didn't spend too much time on the project itself, which is an app for in the space of disability. I think she was trying to break it down for all those who may have ideas. We had very interesting projects like Shekoba Sanap in the previous slide, talking about chavnis for farmers and animals. And that particular year, I think it's a problem even today, but that particular year, it was highlighted because of the drought and the extreme heat conditions, and how chavnis were, as temporary settlements, needed to be planned for the cows. And so it's even projects like this that do get. So he did this in a very record time. I think he had to build it within 2 or 3 weeks, or even lesser, for it actually to be effective, because otherwise the season's over. And it's something that we supported. And if I'm not wrong, he's now kind of a faculty at Academy of Architecture.
Yes.
And he went on to kind of lead the student exhibitions committee there, and took our projects forward through that. The app in the next slide is also interesting, where these two young girls, if I'm not wrong, yeah, they both were women, Sonali, and there was one more woman, where they're talking about homestays, and in Rajasthan, I think, where they built this app for tourists to be able to locate the different homestays, and they were also kind of, this is again helping this whole concept of, in various ways. But the concern here was, how do they take it beyond this? What is the marketing that could happen beyond this? So these are all things that you need to keep in sight, because sometimes if you don't have that plan in place for what after, it ends up in just that product, which is also fine for some of our grants programs. But it'll be really nice for it to become a social enterprise for you. And we have some examples of that as well. Material innovation, we had Kankana talking about what she's doing in the space of materials, but we had Kaushiki and Bharat. I think this is from last year. What was beautiful about this is they came with a packet of garbage from Chennai. The interview was happening in Chennai, and they said how garbage is unique to a place, and hence the debris block that they're coming up will be unique to that place. So the soil of that place is of a particular color, the straw of that place, which they plan to use, and the debris. So in some cases it can be fabric, in some cases it's bits of plastic. The various kinds of debris and the color of that debris kind of makes that material unique. And we talk about how local, how even building blocks need to reflect what is local. And even in a debris block, you can actually do that. And that was what struck us. Yeah. Of course, Treasures of Panvel is our dear Sonam herself. Sonam, would you like to say a couple of lines about what you did here?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that like the multiple various mediums that Geeta is talking about, the grant opportunity is not really limited to XYZ ways of exhibiting the social interruption that you want to create through your vision for the society. And the exhibition here was one of the ways of interrupting the building and construction of the airport in Navi Mumbai by letting people of the locality know that when new development happens, what is their history and their past that they may move away from. And which is why it was a part of the Great Panvel Festival that the exhibition was put out, and we had more than 10,000 people who visited the exhibition. It did not have any end result. There was no end outcome. Like, I have not continued working on Panvel or any research in that direction after it. But it was a one-time instance to make an impact for which was essential and important in that time and space.
Thank you, Sonam. It was just immediately after that she came on board Ethos.
Yes.
So we're lucky for that as well. Yeah, and this is our latest Amal Biju, who's at L&T, noticed a co-worker having problems operating a door handle and came out with a foot-operated door handle. He's just concluded this product and he's finding a way to actually execute it in his office itself. And this was part of the Udita Grants program. So while it belongs to a different, a specific vertical where we asked for, where Anjali comes from also, where we asked for ideas to make universal design or accessibility more, to implement products of accessibility in a living space or in a space that's being used. I think it would qualify for the Saint-Gobain Grants program as well if you come up with something. So yes, any idea literally which is a product, which is a tool, which focuses on communities is something that we would welcome. And of course, how has the grant program helped our grantees so far? Yes, you get funds, and in some of our upcoming grants, we are also looking at breaking it up into monetary and advisory. So in case you want someone to assist you with some advice, we're trying to help you with that as well. Even with the Saint-Gobain grants, if there is a problem, we try and intervene, but it's supposed to be part of that monetary support that we are giving you. But in this case, we'll probably keep aside something to be able to provide that mentorship. And we've also had, if you look at the different verticals Ethos has, Shrama is our vertical on construction workers, and we've had Abhishek Dhar, who's looked at, Soumya and Abhishek, who looked at building transit shelters for construction workers, while Mandar and Siddhi, which is our vertical affordable design, a right, are working on creating some installations in a slum. Raghav, of course, I think some of you would know him. He's working in the space of cob wall construction, and he's creating a course that can be made available on cob wall construction. And that is his big idea under our vertical SAATH, which is sustainability in action and thought. Bodh is where we are talking about building on design histories, where we're talking about traditional wisdom. And Anupama and Ayush are working on a Pinjrakari craft, which is, from the Jammu and Kashmir region, taking it to the rest of India through mass production and, marketing. Udita, I've already kind of shared some ideas, and these, Sonam, will these be available? They're all available on our website, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you can go and, you can go and study these. I'd like to talk about a few of them. Gunrag specifically worked on again a debris block of sorts, lived from the Delhi region. And incidentally, he's gone places since then. His block has been successful. He's been a Next Generation India Fellow at the United Nations Foundation. He's a program recipient at the Swarovski Foundation. And he's a grant recipient at the Youth for Climate Sparkling Solutions as well. He's really going places, and he's also a TEDx speaker. Siddhant is someone I'd like to really tell his story because his story is very close to my heart. He's the founder of Access for All, and his idea came to us probably over 10 years ago. and around that time, because I've maybe eight years ago. And he was, in fact, he took his interview from Greece where he was doing his master's. It was an online interview that he took. And he spoke about accessibility very passionately. At that point in time, I think he realized his mother was losing her sight. And he got into the space of how do you make people with uh, um, disabilities in the visual spectrum uh, experience museums. And that's what he presented to us, and that's what he executed as a project. And it's called the Anubhav Tactile Gallery. And after which I know he did something in Pakistan, again another museum, and then he started consulting on various fronts. And he's also the Emphasis Universal Design Awardee. And then he went on to make Access his profession as well. So Access for All is his space where he's actually consulting on how do you make spaces accessible for everybody. So this became his calling of sorts, because I don't think he shies from giving credit to this scholarship that kind of gave him the wind beneath his wings as he moved on. Yeah. And yes, that's the Saint-Gobain Grants Program 24-25, where we're looking out for your innovative ideas in the realms of sustainability, social responsibility, socio-cultural, digital technology and innovation, and new materials and building technology. And we look forward to interesting ideas. Open for questions now. Anybody who has anything that you'd like to ask the presenters, our Ethos team. And of course, today is one day where you can ask questions, but as you go on also, I'm sure there are ways in which questions could be asked through our phone number. And if you haven't registered yet, please do get online. I think there is a very simple form that we'd like you to fill. And I think even if you're not clear on what your idea is, but you know the space you'd like to be in, do fill up that form, because then we can kind of help you build your proposal in some way as well. We're not going to actually build it for you, but we could have those chats with you to tell you what kind of project. If you have 4 ideas, we could kind of tell you which of them and how to structure it, and so on. And so fill up that simple Google form. And I think that's the one which is other Arcause grants. That's the Google form, right, Sonam?
Yes.
And actual registration for the Saint-Gobain Grants program is the one on the left. And yeah, that's all I had to say. And I'll allow everybody to ask their questions, if any, and take this forward. Thank you.
Can we have the questions in the chat box, please? I see that Alan did really ask a question, which was already responded by Kankana. Yes, all right. So does it mean that most of you are clear? If you want to just unmute yourself and maybe raise your hand and ask the question, that's also fine. No need of typing it out in the chat box. Yes, thanks, Viraj. Okay. Bhagya would like to know how to focus on timeline and budget. Now, every grant that we offer, or the brief that also comes in with a very specific timeline that we ask you to follow. Like for Saint-Gobain grants, it is 1 year. For Udita, the one that Anjali was working on, it was 6 months. So different projects have a different timeline that we request you to work on, and also the scale and the amount of money that you receive for it also kind of changes and varies by it. But to very specifically respond to your question on how to focus on timeline, I think what you need to do and list out are your deliverables. And listing out the deliverables will help you in 2 things. First, it will help you sift and sort things out which are not, if you think that, let's say that you want to work on an app, and you talk about different components of the app. Now, the ones which you know for sure that this as a deliverable is going to take in a lot more time than something which is relatively easier to code in, or maybe it needs a lot more information and research to come in. So that ways, the moment you list out your deliverables, it helps you figure out the budget for those deliverables as well as figure out the timeline for it. So something that we follow at Ethos in every on a weekly and a daily basis also is that instead of directly putting out our task lists, we put out a deliverable list. And we discuss those deliverables and while trying to figure out how much time each of them is going to take. So Bhagya, one quick tip is really to just make a list of what it is that you want to do and how you would, want to time it out. Is there anything else that Anjali, Kankana, or Tejashree would like to add to this question?
Yeah, I think Anjali had shared her timeline, which gives some more clarity as to how you can plan it. You can even plot it so that and each deliverable can be assigned a time and also the budget, each task also.
Right. And you need to also be able to pick and choose, Bhagya, that if this something X is falling beyond or requires more time, more energy, more budget, or more fund, then it becomes a part of a larger vision, but may not be a part of this grant. And that is why the deliverables kind of become important. Okay. So I'll take in Viraj's next question. He's asking, is it possible to get a scholarship if we are enrolled in university abroad and the project is based in Indian context? Would you be personally, how would you be exploring and executing the project? If it is going to be executed in India, your presence in India is important. Your clientele is in India. So as long as you can guarantee that, maybe you will be visiting the place quite often, or there is a medium in which you could connect with the end users, how the collaborations would work in your case, I think then yes, it makes a lot of sense. Because of the limited number of grants that we offer, like for Saint-Gobain grants, it's only 6. And like Geeta said, there are a few more that we would be announcing. We are working on the process of putting out the brief right now. But because the number is limited, we generally try to identify solutions and grantees where the compatibility with the project as well as them being around is guaranteed, to ensure that there won't be any dropout. Because once like you come into the middle of the grant program and then you say, oh, I am actually not in India and I cannot execute it, then it becomes a problem, because we cannot have someone join in just in the middle of the race, right? So it's from all of those perspectives that as long as you have your plan clear and you know how you're going to execute it, right? And that clarity is seen in your proposal as well. Nothing like it's not really like a limitation. Neeta, you asked to whom you can connect to understand more. That would be team Arcause. We'll leave our WhatsApp number for you and you could connect. I think if you are already a part of our the WhatsApp communities, then you would be receiving all of these from us directly. Haneen, you mentioned that you would want details of this video in your in email inbox. We'll make sure that you get it. We generally upload all open sessions on YouTube, so we'll drop in the link of the YouTube for everyone as well. PJ, you asked, can we propose an idea that we want to primarily focus on? Or does it need to be something that we already started or developed to some extent? It doesn't matter in what stage you are approaching us for a grant. Like Kankana shared her entire career path and journey with us. She has applied to multiple grants at different time depending on what was required for the project at that moment. So PJ, doesn't really matter whether you are just starting with a new idea or you already established and have moved ahead. a little and would now want us to, look and support you in that direction.
If I may just intervene, since this is important, it's an important question, particularly when you're you're being interviewed or being evaluated. Sometimes, if you say that this project is 50% underway or 20% underway, and you need funds for the remaining, you may give the impression that you have support already. So you need to be very, very specific on which part of the project you'd like support for and how important that is in the larger scheme of things. You need to very clearly define that, is something I would say, because I have been on the interview panel all these years. And while I'm usually a silent spectator trying to goad every project in, I find that this is something that comes up for conversation. Say you've been supported by the Department of Science and Technology. I'm just giving you an example, for as a seed money for something. You may not be as much an advantage as someone who has no support at all. So it's very essential for you to establish how important this money is for the culmination of the project. And that's something I'd like to.
Right. So I think that clarifies both ends with respect to the deliverables. Like Geeta mentioned, be clear on what this grant is going to help you achieve, right? And to reinstate the requirement of the funding that you receive for it. So I think we've come to an end with all the queries and questions that we've received in the chat box. There is one more. Okay.
I'll just say one more thing here, that I think it's very important for you to put yourself in the evaluation panel's place. I always say this to everybody in my team, for everything that we do. Put yourself in the shoes of the receiver. And here you'll have to remember that there are probably multiple applications that we are receiving. And we're probably giving due diligence from Ethos's side. We bring it down to 30 or 40 that we send to the next review panel. They're probably going to spend 10 minutes on each. So how do you ensure that in that 10 minutes, the need for that scholarship is established adequately? You might say, oh, I had written it there, but it's something that you need to pop out. That needs to pop out and say, hey, this is what this project is about. It's extremely important to this space of digital or materials or social or whatever. And without it, this space is going to be poorer. It is important for this project to be executed. That needs to really pop out at that person who's reading that proposal. You might make it 5-10 pages long, but remember that that's the time that someone going to spend on it is going to be limited. If you catch their attention in the first couple of pages is when the person will read it through.
All right. So I think on that note and on that very specific input and tip for all of you, we thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing your ideas and how you wish to change the world, one small step at a time. So thank you everyone for joining us.